Howdy, Internet. Back at it today with this. I think it's from the 80s Fender, Japanese Fender Bullet. Yeah, a Fender Bullet from Japan from the 80s. I think this is like a kind of a Squire predecessor. And then some telly-shaped neck. This is a guitar I actually put together. This is my guitar until I decide to sell this thing, although this is very unique. The body was given to me in the neck, and at some point somebody put this collar flyer on here. I don't know if it's how you say it, if it's collar or Kaler, whatever. I'm going to say both. And so I ended up finding a guard online, which was a chore in itself. I had to post pictures of the body on like Strat forums until finally some good Samaritan kindly helped me identify this body shape. But someone had already put the collar on it, and I found the locking nut, and then the neck was already shaped and cut for all this. So I was like, well, this is pretty much a complete guitar. I'm just going to put it together and see what it does. And then I put it together and ended up liking it. And so had some hot rails I ended up throwing in here, and then it's a 5-way switch and 2 knobs. And this thing's pretty fun. The Kaler tremolo is very, very, very Cadillac, very smooth, very nice. Probably one of the better tremolos I've played. And the way I like to play, I don't do a lot of dive bombs and stuff. I just kind of like to hold the tremolo arm in my hand as I pick. And so we're going to see a little bit of that here in a minute after I restring this thing. But I've had a casualty. One of these Ernie Ball Super Slinkies failed right there at the ball end. The hoop broke. And I don't know, I'm going to come in close with my magnifying optivisors and maybe see if there's anything. Ooh, the ball end's still in there. To see if there's anything that could possibly be sharp that cut this string that way. Because I don't want to try to repeat broken strings if I don't have to. And this is kind of at a weird spot. That's the reason I kept the string on here. Oh, yeah. And that may be... Actually, I see. And maybe the fact... That's weird that it cut like that because it doesn't even... interface the string in the bridge in that kind of way. It's kind of hard to explain, but you got a slot, and then the ball end goes kind of like this, and so those wrap around this way. Don't really touch anything that it could have rubbed and broke. Although this is the same set of strings I used to set this guitar off, and I must have taken this neck off like 5 or 6 times to finally get everything set to the way it needed to be. I even put a shim in here. I don't know if you can see that. There's a neck shim. I even lacquered the neck shim so that it would match. Put that shim in there, and then with the process of sizing the shim and getting everything right, and then adjusting the truss rod and getting this all together, I must have removed this neck several times. So that could have happened in the course of all that. I don't necessarily want to blame the strings, and I won't this time. I don't really see evidence. I kind of had this suspicion before, but now that I'm actually digging into it, I don't really have proof that it was a faulty string. It's probably the fact that I've taken this set off many times. So now it's time for a new set. We're going to go with some Elixir Nano Web 9-42s. Going to start by loosening the locking nut. Or rather, this is just like a string lock. It's not even a nut. It goes behind the nut. So we're going to loosen these up. This mechanism. We're also going to loosen up all the fine tuners down here. I don't remember how picky, and these will come out if I go too far. Yeah, I'm going to back them up to where they just engage. And playing this was kind of a delight. I enjoyed it. It's an interesting kind of fun tremolo on this guitar, and it was part of my curiosity why I put it together. It's like, well, I wanted to experience this tremolo. The other thing to take note of is I actually painted the neck on this. This was one of the other guitar was the blue guitar I streamed that I ended up selling, and these were kind of my experimentations with spraying lacquer. But I did this neck, and it came out pretty dang good. I even did the headstock black with a can of black lacquer, but I found some nitrocellulose lacquer and did this in a spray, what do they call it, in a paint gun with an air compressor. I'm happy with the results considering my inexperience doing this. And I like the color. I ended up finding an old can of lacquer in my grandpa's storage shed to where like the rust inside the can started to permeate the lacquer. And so when I sprayed it, it kind of gave this like burnt color. It's pretty neat. Let me get these strings off of here, starting with this broken one. All these have to kind of be weaved through this lock up top. I even put a roller nut on this. This was just kind of like a fun Partscaster project for me. And then I got really, I sat on this body and this neck for probably like 2 or 3 years, just sitting at my house, not having a use for it. And then I, finally got tired of it sitting there. I just poked my finger with that string. Ow! You do this for a living, it's going to happen a lot. So I wanted to do something with this guitar body. Ended up making this contraption out of it. It's pretty fun. Clip them so they come off a little easier. I could do this quicker. Put on some Goto tuners. I used good hardware for this. I kind of wanted to match the color and the quality of the bridge. I didn't want to put cheap tuners when it had this like awesome bridge. You price one of these alone, even used, I think these go between like $200 and $300 if I'm not mistaken. And it came free with this body and neck. It was pretty much given to me, or like I traded it to a friend for some other guitar parts. He had this laying around, and I think I just told him, hey, throw it in with it. I'll take that off your hands. Or I think I just asked him for it and he gave it to me. Thanks. So I ended up making this thing out of it. So if you've ever had the privilege of stringing one of these, you're about to see what it takes. Wait, I didn't say that right. If you've never had the privilege. That's what I meant to say. Whatever. Going with elixirs. Now, unlike your traditional Floyd Rose locking nut, to where like the top gets screwed on and cinches the string in between, this, as you tighten it, pulls a bottom part up to lock on the string. It's kind of interesting. This string, you almost have to thread through the lock and the tuner at once. This is where this setup on a Telecaster headstock isn't really the best. However, the neck came with the body, although I don't think it's the original one. It was already drilled for this, and instead of buying a neck and having an extra neck laying around, I just ended up using it on this, and it worked out. I like Telenecks. This thing plays pretty good. There we go, finally. That's kind of hard to put in there, because it has to go through the tuner and through the lock. Get this roughly in here, and then we're going to do our little first fret measurement and start winding. This is a fun guitar. I'm not a sponsor or anything. I don't really care for sponsorships. If I like products, I'll carry them in the store and then, you know, just ask the public to buy from me. I don't look for sponsorships. However, I will shout out to whammyparts.com for helping me source some of the parts for this project, because some of these some of these specialized Allen screws were stripped on this, and I found all the replacement parts I needed for this on that website. So they sell old collar parts. This is also a collar arm I got from them. It's stainless steel, and it's like their longer one. I think it's an extra inch longer. However, after having it, it's a little bit too long for what I need. So I actually need to get back on there and order one that's just slightly smaller. Although this one does a great job. It's just for where this sits in my hand and how I use it to play, it could probably stand to be a little bit smaller. We got an E string on, only 5 more to go. I don't know. Tell me what you think in the chat. Tell me what you think in the comments about this guitar. Would you play this thing? Is this thing lame to you? This was just kind of something to occupy my time and, you know, recycle. I don't think I've ever actually played a set of Elixir electric strings for an extended period of time. So this will kind of be my chance to kind of test these out and give these a run. I like to try out on my personal guitars, I like to try out different things. Helps me understand the products better. So when people ask me what's the difference in between the products, I have, like, you know, not only what the literature says, but I have experience. And so that's kind of why I'm going with Elixirs today. Before this was the pink Slinkies, the super Slinkies. And now we're going with some nano webs. I went with the Slinkies because they were a little cheaper initially, because I knew I would be taking them off several times to get everything initially set up. But now that everything is set up and I shouldn't have to do any adjustment on this thing because I'm going back with the same gauge I use. I like to play 9s on Strat and Tellies. Sometimes I'll play 10s. Or usually, like on other guitars, I'll play 10s. But I shouldn't have to do any adjustments, so these strings hopefully will just stay on after this is strung. That's kind of the idea, right? My little roller nut broke. Holy cow. That little thing fell off. What happened here? This just fell off. How does this even stay on? Was there a screw? Or was that just flared on there? Let me see. I think I have another one up in here I can compare it to. Hold up. That's odd that product just failed like that. Here's the other one. This is actually the other one that was out of the pack when I opened that. Yeah, it's just flared on there. Okay. I don't really have a tool to fix that, but we're just going to reuse it with the string tension on that. That shouldn't go anywhere. I'll let the owner know. Got to be careful. The lacquer is really soft up here on this where I painted it black. I guess that black lacquer doesn't, the can lacquer doesn't cure as hard as the, I don't know. Maybe it's because I sprayed it over the clear. Either way, that's one thing that you got to be aware of on guitars that have been painted by people and not companies, is that they're not professionally painted. You got to take precautions. I can't say your name. Captain Wiz says hi. Hello. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it when people participate in the chat. That was kind of the point of me doing this, is to interact with the chat and not so much a how-to or show and tell. This is kind of just for me to do something and have something for me to be doing while we have a conversation. All right, a couple more strings. So what do y'all think? Would y'all play this guitar? I guess we'll call it shred or pass. Player pass. These frets really could stand to be leveled, polished, and crowned. And I may do that in the future, but I don't play this enough to feel like I got to do that. However, this thing would really sing if I did. It has like some dents and divots in the frets. I'm kind of afraid that if I mask this to do the fret leveling, that some of my lacquer is going to come up when I remove the tape. I should have done it before I lacquered it, but I didn't. It was just an experiment. I didn't know how well it would turn out. And then when my lacquer job came out looking like this, I was like, well, I got to build the guitar now. I like that the saddles have little rollers on them. Again, like if you've ever used one of these, it's a very smooth tremolo. These are nice. So this will do in such a way so I don't knock off that piece that fell off. I would say compared to a Floyd Rose, this is slightly easier to string because you can remove all the strings at once to do it. I mean, you got to fight the tuning after the fact, but there's not really a way to chalk the bridge unless you do it one string at a time. So if you're just joining in, I appreciate it. Hit up the chat if you have something to say. But my kind of looming question is, would you play this guitar? Is this something you would rock out on? It's time to tune. I'm going to need that in a second to clip them. The Peterson iStrobo Clip HD. We sell these on the website. Das says, keep up the good work. Thank you. I'll try. Put this back on guitar. Let me get a pick. Oh, F's too high. Let me plug it in so we can hear the fun noises. I tuned to standard. Something just wiggled into place. What was that? Oh well. Now that I've loosened these, they're still like loose. I'm just tightening them so they just start to engage that lever that makes them work. Also, so they don't fall out. I'm also going to tighten them just like a quarter of a turn or so in case that they're too sharp after I lock the nut. So I got room to go both ways. Good rule to always remember is, well, I practice this. You can do whatever you want, but I don't cut these until the guitar is fully in tune, or at least like close. I at least try to get one or two like initial tunings and get the strings pretty close to their pitch before I clip these, because while you bring a guitar up to pitch, these little like wraps that you do can slip, and then sometimes it'll unwind itself, and then you have a disaster on your hands. And in worst case, well, you got to replace the string that slipped out because it's just not long enough anymore. Now, it's not perfect, but they're close enough to where I can clip these now. I got this giant box over here. I put all these ends in. It's huge. I filled it up several times. There was a like string recycling service that would take them, but I don't even know that the return shipping on this box to send it to them was actually worth the amount of material I was sending them. I've almost gotten to, unless y'all have any suggestions of what I can do with a huge box filled with used guitar and bass strings. The only thing I can really think is just to drag it to a scrapyard and recycle it that way. You know, get like $1 or $2 out of its weight in metal. But I don't know. Keep it out of a landfill, perhaps. I don't know. If y'all have better suggestions for a giant box of old strings, let me know. We finished tuning. A lot of times after you clip these, you will have to retune it, because even that just jarring from the clipping will change the tuning slightly. I don't think that's the case with this one. This is still kind of coming up to pitch because of a floating trim. Although we're starting to get there. We're close enough to where I can play this for a minute. I'm going to put the trim on. I got to unplug it. Trim arm goes in here, and this is the extra long one, which I'm not too terribly fond of, but I should have got just a normal sized one. It could be an inch shorter because my hand goes right here, and you can see it kind of sticking out here. That I don't really care. It doesn't need to be that long, and I don't necessarily pick up here. Where anyway, this could be a little shorter for my liking. Although this trim is awesome. Let me plug it back in now. Very, very, very sensitive tremolo. I mean, it doesn't take much at all to activate this. This is probably the best part of this whole guitar is the trim. I think the other stuff is just kind of whatever, but this thing actually makes this guitar fun. I feel if it just had like a regular bridge on it, it would just be like, oh, whatever, another Partscaster. But this is the reason I take this home and play it, because it's fun. And it's also, since I put all the work into it and like painting it, I didn't paint the body, I painted the neck and the headstock. You know, it's like, well, I don't want to just let it go to anybody. You know, I got my blood, sweat, and tears in this now. Although I did sell that blue struggle caster, somebody put in the comments, which was hilarious. A struggle caster. That's hilarious. The struggle caster is real. I need to quit messing with the trim so I can lock the locking tuners. I will do that on this video. If this were, because, you know, I'm going to be around this guitar. If I have to unlock it to retune it later, that's fine, because this is my guitar. If it were customers and I had the time, I would just let it sit here and I would play it for like an hour or so and then retune it, just so the strings have time to kind of stretch and everything get used to itself. But this is my guitar. I can do that anytime. I'm just lucky I'm even getting the chance to put strings on it today. I've been kind of busy, so we plug it back in. One last tune. I didn't want the arm on it so it doesn't change the tuning before I lock it. All right, cool. So just like with the Floyd Rose, I'm going to lock one at a time and then check the strings. So now we're going to lock the E and the A. Those are locked. Now we check the tuning. A went slightly sharp, well, the E did. I did not give myself enough purchase here. So it's locked and the string's slightly sharp. We may have a solution for that without unlocking it. I'll show you in a second, but let me check the A. Let me turn that where y'all can see it. A's in tune. I know it says D. No, that was the D. The D is in tune. Okay, the A is in tune. Good. So the E is sharp, so we'll see if this works. Sometimes if the string is sharp, you can pull on it. And now we have room to actually keep this in tune with the lock-in. Lock the middle two, the D and the G. And again, it's weird. You tighten the screw and then it brings up a plate from the bottom to lock it, instead of bringing the plate down on top like a traditional lock. I call it a locking nut, but it's not really a nut. It's behind the nut, so I'm just calling it a lock. Cool, those stayed, last two. Let's lock them. Yeah, so once again, maybe comment on this one. Would you play this guitar? Shred or pass, I guess we'll call it. I did not just turn that. I swear. Now this style lock does a pretty good job. I'm not going to say it works just as good as the other ones, but it does retain the tuning fairly well. Luckily, with this this tremolo, you have like the fine tuners on this are in a different ballpark than the ones on a Floyd Rose, because you have a lot more travel on these, and you have you don't have a limited range. You have a greater range of how far you can actually tune in and bend these down with those. Okay, good. Thank you, bye. All right, we're in tune. We're gonna put the arm back on. It's one thing that's lacquer soft. Even from having just the little tuner on it, I can see an impression. It'll go away though, because I did it before with like, it's done it before. I don't know if you could see that, but it's kind of left in that soft lacquer. There you go. You can see it right there where the tuner was. Put the arm in, jam for a minute, and call it a stream. See how much I like these elixirs after I play on them for like a month or so. Thank you for watching.